There's a reason this is the most popular piano method for young beginners. Could this be the perfect balance between fun and fundamentals? Let's dive in. Hey, if you haven't seen my face before, I'm Phoenix and I'm the Tattooed Piano Teacher. As piano teachers, we know that different age groups just need different things. So I'm going to be evaluating using my 10 categories for comparing piano method books. And we're gonna go through the My First Piano Adventure series in depth. First, we're gonna talk about pacing. Now, the pacing of this method compared to other older beginner methods would be slow, but compared to other young beginner methods, it's about average. What that means is that the quote-unquote average student would find the progression of concepts and the difficulty of the songs pretty manageable. It wouldn't be overly challenging, but it wouldn't move too slow. Now remember that this series is developed for ages 5 and 6, and I also use it with 4-year-olds as well. So we're talking about like that kindergarten age group. The next category is positions, and we're talking about hand positions here. Now in lesson book A, we are mostly on the black keys, so there is no real hand position. And then towards the end, the student is placed in the white keys, and then they are expected to do the 5-finger scale. Now, for some students, I find this progression at the end of the first level to be a little abrupt. What I mean by that is they're playing on the black keys for a long time. They get a few songs that are on the white keys in sort of odd positions. I find that students get really confused on where to put their hands for these songs at home. So you usually have to go over in class a lot with them or get the parents involved on how to do these little transitional songs. And then bam, they are asked to put all 5 fingers down on the white keys in a C pentascale for the right hand and then the left hand. Now they don't play hands together, but they are expected to have all 5 fingers working simultaneously in like a scale-like pattern. And for some, technically speaking, and as far as like the mind conceptualizing that scale, it is a little bit abrupt. But for like the bright or the quick student, this is actually a welcome change from doing all black key songs. Now, usually when we get to the end of lesson book A, I kind of judge how the student did with that transition from black keys to white keys. And if they could handle that pretty good, then I know they're going to do well in the next level, which is book B. In book B, students are asked to do various hand positions, and it kind of changes every page. Sometimes they get a picture of where they should put their hands, but sometimes they don't. So the positions that they're going to rotate through are like a traditional C pentascale, where both hands are on C, D, E, F, G. Also thumb share C or middle C position, and then also what I call neighbor notes, where it's middle C position, but the left hand moves down 1 note or the right hand moves up 1 note. So every song is kind of like a new hand position challenge. Now, for the easily confused student or for the student who doesn't have a lot of parental support at home with their practicing, and this entire book might be lost to them if they can't figure out where to put their hands. So this isn't for every single student, but if you have a pretty quick student who like picks up on where to put their hands and is connecting the key names to the letter names pretty well, they'll transition into book B fairly easily. If I have a student that just really can't handle all the variety of positions, then I might consider doing something more like the Piano Made Fun for the Young series or Wonder Keys books, where they're staying in the same position for the entire book, which would serve this particular student a little bit better. Moving on to notation. So there is a very logical progression in introducing notes on the staff. The entire book A is all off-staff notation. There is no introduction to the staff in the first book. That happens in book B. Within the first few pages, they're introduced to the staff. They are working with songs that use all stepwise motion on the staff. In book C, now they are going to be introduced to reading skips on the staff. So it's a well thought out process, and for the right student, it works really well to get them reading the notes. Now, I will mention the notation introduction schedule is a guide note approach to teaching notes on the staff. The guide note system is where books will introduce certain key notes far apart from each other on the staff, and then students can use those memorized landmarks to fill in the rest of the gaps if they don't recognize a note. If you watched my videos before, you also know my opinion about the guide note system for young beginners. I feel like it fights against their instincts and it doesn't really work too well, so I'm not too fond of the guide note system in a book for 4 to 6-year-olds. If you have a really quick student who picks up on this sort of thing really easily, they will thrive in this book. If you have a student who really struggles with that concept of reading notes on the staff, then this might not be the series for them. So as they're introduced to notes on the staff in lesson book B, I kind of gauge how they're absorbing that, because the end of book B and into book C, they're going to have these really big gaps in what they're supposed to know as far as like on the staff. Once again, look at either Piano Made Fun for the Young or the Wonder Keys series, which both introduce notes in more of a stepwise motion and don't use the guide note system as much. Before we get into the theory category, would you hit that like button if you like seeing piano method reviews and this sort of content? That tells me that you all like this sort of thing and I should make more of these types of videos. So as far as theory goes, I think this series really hits it out of the park. They have a separate series called the writing book. And by the way, I love that they call it the writing book and not the theory book, because kindergartners do not know the word theory. And I can't tell you how many times I've asked students to get out their theory book and they look at me like, oh, the what? Like, how many times have I said theory? But like, they don't understand the theory behind the word theory. And so it just doesn't register for them no matter how many times I say it. I'm like, the writing one, the workbook. So the students can really keep track of what their lesson book is and what their writing book is. And that's brilliant. So the writing book really covers a variety of topics in the theory world. They're going to be doing some ear training. They're going to be doing some creative activities. They're going to be drawing notes, which I really like. I like that this book has like big notes that they're supposed to draw, not like tiny little notes. It just really, they've thought about the age group in designing the writing book. Now, the one caveat to the writing book, the instructions are sometimes complicated and they're different on every single page. So it isn't really a pattern on what the students are supposed to do. Every page is different. Now that's great because it keeps things interesting, but I find that I haven't had much success in having students complete the writing book assignments at home unless the parent is there in the lesson, listening to the instructions, and then basically is the teacher at home. So for all the other students who don't have that level of support at home, we just do the writing assignments in class and it's fine. We do them together. So as far as technique goes, there isn't a separate book, but technique is incorporated throughout the lesson books in all three levels. I really do think that there is a good balance of technique. When working with those little fingers, you have to understand how much you can ask of them. They are not completely developed. They can't curve like big fingers can. They can't relax like big fingers can. And sometimes I feel like these method books don't understand that about tiny little fingers, but I feel like this book does a really good job of consistently introducing technical concepts that are going to serve them later on. Things like posture, things like curved fingers, things like arm weight and things like that. But they make up these cute songs to introduce them and have these like fun motions instead of just telling the kids, curve your fingers. They actually make it fun, and even if they don't completely master a technical skill at this level, at least they're aware of it and they're working towards it. So I think that they really did a good job on incorporating technique with this age group in mind. Let's talk about the levels of the overall path that this series will take you through. There are only 3 levels in the My First Piano Adventure series. By the time they finish the series, they will be at an early elementary level. But those 3 books basically equal the purple book in the Normal Piano Adventures series. So once they finish level C, they're gonna go on to the red book, which is level 1 in the Piano Adventures core books. Aesthetically, these books are colorful from cover to cover. The bold, saturated colors on every page, cutest characters, wonderful stories, lots of pets. They really capture the imagination of this age group. All the lesson books come with backing tracks and songs so that you can kind of sing along with all the stories. And there's a cute intro song called Friends at the Piano where you're introduced to all the friends. It's just really well done for this age group. Again, they've kept their age group in mind when designing these books. Now, one thing I will say about the aesthetics is that they are very much geared towards that little kid aesthetic like kindergartners would appreciate. However, know your customer, because if you have an older kindergartner, maybe a second-year kindergartner or a first grader, and you want to put them in this series, you want to meet them first and kind of gauge where they're at as far as their likes and interests. If they have a big sis that they're trying to be like a 6-year-old can sometimes be turned off by that whole little kid aesthetic. So it's very, very much one-sided in the aesthetics. Just make sure you're giving it to the right student. The songs in these books are a combination of original compositions, familiar tunes, and classical themes. And there's a really good balance throughout the 3 levels. The original songs are really, really well written, and the lyrics are cute, the titles are cute, and each song kind of like reveals some of the inside story of some of our characters. They know the subject matters that this age group would care about. So we're talking about like having to go to bed. We're talking about like making cookie dough. We're talking about dogs and cats and other pets. Just super cute songs. There's lots of familiar tunes. You're gonna get like your Old MacDonald, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and things like that. And then there are tons of classical themes by Beethoven, Mozart, Brahms, Tchaikovsky. So if you want to see a full list of all the classical themes and all the familiar tunes that pop up in these books, then check out my blog post reviewing these books, and I actually list them all out in that blog post on my website, TheTattooedPianoTeacher.com. So how much do these books cost? They're pretty reasonable considering you get all of the backing tracks in these beautiful bold colored pages. The main lesson book for all 3 levels is $9.99, and then the writing book is $8.99 for a total of about $19. And really there are only those 2 books besides a Christmas book you can throw in there as well, but really just the main 2 core books. This series gets a 10 out of 10 as far as availability goes because this is published by Hal Leonard, the biggest music publisher in the world. So you can really get it anywhere. You can get it at your local store. You can get these on Amazon, and sometimes they are discounted a little bit. You can get them on Sheet Music Plus, which often runs sales. And you can also get them on everymusicbook.com. And if you've never heard of that site before, check out my video all about saving money on piano method books. Now, if you've made it this far in the video, chances are you are kind of interested in this series or other series for young beginners, or maybe just piano methods in general. I have a ultimate piano method comparison chart that I made, and you can get it for free by signing up for my email list. That link is in the pinned comment and in the description, and it does include my first piano adventure and piano adventures and a lot of other method book series. So if you want to see like difficulty wise how they stack up to other series that you might already be familiar with, then that chart might help you out a lot. If you want to keep watching, I mentioned this method a couple of times. Piano Made Fun for the Young, and I did a full review of it here if you want to check it out, and I will see you there.